Welcome to another edition of Website Business Broker Specialist. I'm David Fairley, President and founder of WebsiteProperties.com. Today I want to talk about a blog post I recently wrote that was inspired by a situation that I think is relevant to most people that are buying and selling businesses, and it's basically talking about the time when it's time to walk from a deal. You have to. Sometimes it's just not worth pushing, and I would like to address that. I'm going to read verbatim from the blog because I think it's really important. So here we go. Sometimes during a negotiation between a buyer and seller, there are definitive signs that start rearing up that lead to what is known as deal fatigue. This can happen as early as the letter of intent stage, which is where an initial written offer is submitted and is negotiated, accepted, or rejected. It can also happen well into the due diligence phase. In the case of the seller, it may start becoming clear that although they may have been agreeable to a deal initially, the buyer's behavior and manner during the due diligence period may cause concerns about the future dealings with the buyer after closing. These can be anxiety about the buyer's competence to manage the business, the seller's baby, and this amount of support and maintenance that will be needed to transition the business. It can also be an attitude of nickel and diming and trying to chisel away at the agreed upon price and terms unreasonably. It also can be awareness that the buyer has unrealistic expectations or limitations that they want to incorporate in the final purchase agreement that creates unnecessary risk and responsibilities on the seller that are beyond their control, such as guaranteeing specific SEO rankings, traffic, and sales. The business history and fundamentals should be reason and motivation enough to make a purchase decision, which inevitably contains some risk, as there are certainly no guarantees in any businesses you buy or sell. Buyers need to assess the risk-reward factors of a business for sale while concurrently evaluating their own skill set they bring to the new venture to determine the probability of succeeding or meeting their goals and aspirations. Many times, these early warning signs should be weighed, and a decision to walk from a deal and trust that a more harmonious deal will follow. This is much easier when the seller is not under pressure to sell or in a rush to sell. They can afford to be patient and wait for the right buyer and the right deal. The right deal usually means it is a smooth and fluid process where both parties are respectful and even. On the buyer side, when a deal is agreed upon initially and they enter due diligence, red flags can start appearing in the form of incomplete data, inability to corroborate data or financial numbers, unorganized or incomplete presentation of materials to verify the business history, and erratic or highly emotional responses from the seller. If a seller is too pushy with closing in an unrealistic time frame, like 1 or 2 weeks, instead of allowing a more normal due diligence and closing period of 3 to 4 weeks on average, this may be an indication of future problems. It is important that a buyer is kept current on financials of the business and that they know the seller is focused on the business health during this process of transition. Any signs of impatience or excuses for abnormal discrepancies in the numbers or current sales may be a sign that the business is being dumped. If too many red flags show up, a buyer should really consider moving on to find an internet business for sale where these are not present. Business transactions are primarily about dealing with people and relationships. Buyers and sellers typically will share at least 60 to 90 days in a support and training period, and so building a good relationship from the start during the LOI, letter of intent stage, and due diligence phase are good indications of how the transition of the business phase will go. Both website buyers and sellers should be choosy when consummating a deal. The easiest and smoothest internet businesses for sale transactions are usually the most successful for both parties. If it is not a win-win across the board and clean and clear, it is probably a good idea to move on and wait patiently for another deal. The last comment I want to make is, ultimately, depending on the deal, a lot of times there's going to be owner financing, or there may be an earn-out to get to the price that a seller wants to get to. And in that case, you definitely want to be working with a buyer that you feel comfortable with that you're going to trust, because you're going to have an ongoing relationship possibly for 2 or 3 years that involves working with this person and also getting paid from this person. So if there are signs that that show up as we've discussed, then it may be better to walk rather than to risk not getting paid fully for your business, having it falling apart and having a legal issue. And that's it. Thank you again. David Fairley, websiteproperties.com. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Website Business Broker Specialist. Have a great day.